Hello class 8. We are doing our chapter number 2 of history, which is from trade to territory. In this chapter we already discussed about the European companies and the Battle of Plassey and the Battle of Buxar. Today we will discuss more points about this chapter. The first one is company rule expense. Company rule expense. If we analyze the process of annexation means when they annex the Indian state, when annex means मिला लेना, जब वो दूसरे इंडियन स्टेट्स को अपने में मिला लेते थे, by the East India Company from 1757 to 1857. Why here is written 1857? Because in 1857 the revolt of 1857 was started. That's why we are taking the time period, the time between the 1757 to 1857. Certain key aspects emerge. The company rarely launched a direct military attack. They don't want to attack directly. They use political, economic and diplomatic methods to extend its influence before the annexation and Indian kingdom. They don't want to war and they don't want to fight with the rulers of India directly. They use different methods like Sam, Dam, Dand, Bhed, so that they can mix or they can annex other territories in their territories. After the Battle of Buxar in 1764, the company appointed residents in Indian states. They were political or commercial agents and their jobs was to serve and further the interest of the company. They appointed officers to take care of the territories. Through the residents, the company officials began interfering in the internal affairs of Indian states. They always interfere in our personal matter. They try to decide who was to be the successor to the throne and who was to be appointed in administrative post. Every time they are interfering in the matter of rulers and they interfere in the matter of that who will be the next successor in this territory. Sometimes the company forced the state into a subsidiary alliance. Now the main term is here comes subsidiary alliance. It means, what is the meaning of subsidiary alliance? Every time the British East India Company forced other states to start subsidiary alliance. What do you mean by subsidiary alliance? It means that Indian rulers were not allowed to have their independent armed force. Yes, the Indian rulers, they were not allowed to have their independent army. They were to be protected by the company. Had to pay for subsidiary forces that the company was supposed to maintain for the purpose of this protection. If the Indian rulers failed to make the payment, then the part of their territory was taken away as penalty. So here the term is subsidiary alliance. Subsidiary alliance means the rulers, they are not allowed to keep their own army. They are protected by the British company, British army, and they just pay for the subsidiary forces. If they have no money and they will not pay for the subsidiary forces, then their territory will be annexed, means मिला ली जाएगी by the British government. For example, when the Richard Wellesley was the Governor General in 1798 to 1805, the Nawab of Awadh was the first state which was annexed by the British government in subsidiary alliance. Was forced to give over half of his territory to the company in 1801 as he failed to pay for the subsidiary forces. Hyderabad was also forced to the sea territory on similar ground. Hyderabad and Awadh was annexed by the British government because they have no money to pay to the British government as subsidiary forces. Now the most important point is here, Tipu Sultan, the Tiger of Mysore. Yes, Tipu Sultan was known as the Tiger of Mysore. Here you can see the picture of Tipu Sultan. The company resorted to direct military confrontation when it saw a threat to its political and economic interests. When the British East India Company saw that they have threat to its political and economic interests, then they will direct military confrontation, then they will attack directly. This can be illustrated with the case of the southern Indian state of Mysore. This was happened because of the tiger of Mysore. Mysore had grown in strength under the leadership of powerful rulers like Hyder Ali, ruled from 1761 to 1782, and his famous son Tipu Sultan. Who was the father of Tipu Sultan? Hyder Ali, ruled from 1782 to 1799. Mysore controlled the profitable trade of the Malabar coast, where the company purchased pepper and cardamom. These are the spices. In 1785, Tipu Sultan stopped the export of sandalwood, pepper and cardamom through the ports of his kingdom and disallowed local merchants from trading with the company. Now the main points are: first one, who was the ruler of Mysore? Hyder Ali, and his son was Tipu Sultan, one of his famous. He has many sons, but the Tipu Sultan was the famous one. Mysore controlled the profitable. The British East India Company did business in that coast, Malabar coast, which is in the side of Kerala, so that Tipu Sultan stopped their business and stopped the export of sandalwood, pepper and cardamom, means spices, so that, and disallow local traders that you will not do any type of business with British East India Company. One main trick by the Tipu Sultan was he made strong relationship with the French in India. French people, those who are doing business in India, Tipu Sultan made a strong relationship with the people of France and modernized his army with their help and give new equipments, new weapons to his army. The people were furious. They saw Hyder and Tipu as ambitious. The British were furious, arrogant and dangerous. The British believed that the Tipu Sultan and his father Hyder Ali, they were ambitious, arrogant and dangerous. Rulers who had to be controlled and crushed. ऐसे रूलर जिन्हें क्रस्ट कर देना, दबा देना चाहिए. 4 wars were fought with Mysore. Britishers fought 4 wars with Mysore: 67 to 69, 80 to 84, 90 to 92, and in the last 1799. Only in the last, the battle of Sri Rangapatnam, did the company ultimately win a victory. After the 4 battle, in the last battle, which was in the Sri Rangapatnam, did the company ultimately win the victory. Tipu Sultan was killed defending his capital Srirangapatnam. Mysore was placed under the former ruling dynasty of the Wadiyars and a subsidiary alliance was imposed on the state. On the state, the subsidiary alliance was imposed, and after some time this was also annexed by the British East India Company. Now here you can see a picture. Cornwallis was the general governor, receiving the son of Tipu Sultan as hostages painted by the Daniel Orme in 1793. This painting was made by Daniel, and in this picture it's shown that he is Tipu Sultan and he gave his 2 sons to the Britishers and Cornwallis to Cornwallis, and the 2 sons were hostages. Hostages means bandi bana liye gaye. The company forces were defeated by Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan in several battles. Every time when the battle was held between the British company and the Hyder Ali or Tipu Sultan, then always the Tipu Sultan was won the battle. But in 1792, in the last battle, attacked by the combined force of Maratha and the Nizam of Hyderabad and the company, 3 people combined make their army: Marathas, Nizam of Hyderabad and British company. They three all attacked the Tipu Sultan and then forced to sign a treaty with the British by which two of his sons were taken away as hostages. British painters were always liking this type of painting because they want to show their power as this painting. You can see this toy also, Tipu Sultan toy. This was a special toy which was taken by the East India Company. This toy tiger is now kept in the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. The British took it away when Tipu Sultan died defending his capital Srirangapatnam on 4 May 1799. When the Tipu Sultan was died, this toy was taken away by the British Company as the memory, and this toy is kept in the Museum of Victoria and Albert Museum in London. So class, today we discussed about the subsidiary alliance and the war between Hyder Ali Tipu Sultan versus British East India Company. Tomorrow we will discuss more points about this chapter, so make your own notes and say them for your future also. Thank you so much class.